Surah Ash-Shaffat. Surah Ash-Shaffat consists of 182 verses and is included in the group of Makkiyah chapters revealed after Surah Al-An'am. The name Ash-Shaffat, which means shaf-shaf, is related to the words of Ash-Shaffat located in the opening verse of this chapter. It states how the angels who line up before their Lord, whose souls are clean, cannot be tempted by the devil. This should be an itibar for humans in serving themselves to Allah. The main contents of Surah Ash-Shaffat, the power and oneness of Allah. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 1 to 10. These verses confirm the oath made by a group of angels who line up in agreement to worship Allah, who prevent everything seriously, and who read warnings. Allah is declared to be truly one God, the Lord of the heavens, the earth and everything between them, and the Lord of the places where the sun rises. Allah has adorned the heavens of the world with stars, protecting them from the disobedient devils who cannot hear the conversation of the angels and will be driven away with eternal punishment, except for the devil who steals the conversation and is chased by a burning star. Allah's refutation of the evidence of the polytheists, mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 11 to 19. Humans were created from clay by Allah, but they continued to insult the Prophet Muhammad and rejected the warnings given to them. When the signs of Allah's greatness were conveyed, they considered them mere magic. They doubted the resurrection after death, even asking whether their ancestors would also be resurrected. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to state that they would be resurrected and would experience humiliation. The resurrection would occur with a single shout, and at that time they would wake up from their deaths and witness what happened. The state of the polytheists in the hereafter, mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 20 to 26. These verses describe the state of the oppressors on the day of recompense, where they realize their misfortune and admit that it is the day of judgment that they have always denied. The angels are ordered to gather the oppressors and their companions and show them the way to hell, where they will be detained and questioned about their beliefs and behavior. They were criticized for not helping others in the world, and in the end, they surrendered to Allah's decision. The dispute between the misguided and the misguided, mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 27 to 39. These verses describe a dialogue between the disbelievers who blame and quarrel with each other, where their followers blame their leaders for preventing them from doing good. However, their leaders assert that it was actually them who did not want to be believers and went beyond the limits. They realized that God's punishment would befall them and admitted that they had misled others and felt the punishment together. Even though they had previously been arrogant and rejected the truth brought by the Prophet Muhammad, they would feel a painful punishment as a recompense for their actions. Pleasures for believers in paradise. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 40 to 49. These verses describe the servants of Allah who are chosen because of their sincerity, who receive predetermined sustenance in the form of fruits, and are honored in the heavens full of pleasure. They sit face to face on couches, while enjoying glasses filled with drinks from the springs of paradise that are pure white and delicious in taste. The drink is not harmful, and does not make them drunk. They are also surrounded by beautiful-eyed houris, who limit their gaze, with beautiful skin like eggs that are well preserved. Conversation of the inhabitants of paradise. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 50 to 61. These verses describe a dialogue between two people in the afterlife, where one of them reminds of a friend who doubts the resurrection after death. When he visits his friend in hell, he realizes how close he was to disaster, and is grateful for the favor of God who has saved him. They discuss death, resurrection, and retribution in the afterlife, realizing that true victory is for those who do good deeds in the world. The message of these verses is the importance of preparing for the afterlife with good deeds. food for the inmates of hell. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 62 to 70. These verses describe the choice between the delicious dishes of heaven and the zaqqum tree, which is the punishment for the wrongdoers. The zaqqum tree grows from the bottom of Jahim hell, with its branches resembling the heads of devils. The wrongdoers eat zaqqum fruit and fill their stomachs with it, then drink very hot water. Finally they will return to the hell of Jahim and meet their ancestors in a state of error, which makes them rush to follow in the footsteps of their ancestors' error. Consequences of disobedience to the truth. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 71 to 74. These verses indicate that most of the people before the Quraysh had gone astray, even though the messenger had been sent as a warner among them. This verse invites us to pay attention to the end of those who are warned, except for the servants of Allah, who are chosen because of their sincerity. Rescue of Prophet Noah and his followers. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 75 to 82. These verses tell the story of Noah who prayed to Allah, who then accepted his prayer and saved Noah and his followers from a major disaster. Allah made Noah's descendants the people who survived on earth, and immortalized Noah's praise among the people who came later by providing prosperity to Noah in the universe. This was a reward for people who did good, and Noah was recognized as a believing servant of Allah. Meanwhile for others, Allah drowned them as punishment for their bad deeds. Destruction of idols by Prophet Abraham. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 83 to 99. These verses tell the story of Ibrahim who came to his God with a pure heart, asked his father and his people about idol worship, and confronted them with questions about the God of the worlds. Ibrahim then looked at the stars, pretending to be sick, and when they turned away from him, he secretly destroyed their idols. When asked why the idols did not eat or answer, Ibrahim emphasized that it was Allah who created them. His people then decided to burn Ibrahim, but Allah saved him and made them despicable people. Ibrahim stated that he would go to his Lord who would give him guidance.
The slaughter of Prophet Ismail is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat verses 100 to 111. These verses tell the story of Ibrahim who prayed to Allah to be blessed with godly offspring, and Allah gave him the good news about the birth of Ismail. When Ismail was old enough to work with Ibrahim, Ibrahim dreamed of slaughtering him, and Ismail patiently accepted Allah's command. When both of them surrendered and Ibrahim was ready to slaughter Ismail, Allah confirmed Ibrahim's dream as a real test, and Ibrahim was given a large sacrificial animal to be slaughtered. Allah perpetuated praise for Ibrahim among the people who came later by giving greetings to Ibrahim as a reward for those who did good, because Ibrahim was one of Allah's believing servants. The good news about the birth of Prophet Ishaq is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 112 to 113. Allah gave Ibrahim good news about the birth of the Prophet Ishaq, who was also a pious person. Allah bestowed blessings on Abraham and Ishaq, but some of their descendants did good, while others openly did wrong to themselves. The story of Prophet Moses and Prophet Harun is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 114 to 122. Allah has bestowed blessings on Moses and Harun by saving them and their people from a major disaster, helping them to become victorious people, giving them a clear book, the Torah, guiding them to a straight path, and immortalizing their praise among those who came later by giving peace to Moses and Aaron. Allah rewards those who do good, and Moses and Harun were among the believing servants of Allah. The story of Prophet Ilyas is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 123 to 132. Allah appointed Ilyas as an apostle who called on his people to fear Allah, denounce the idolatry of Baal, and remind them of Allah as the true God. Even though his people deny Ilyas, God's chosen servants will be saved, and praise and blessings will be given to Ilyas and his people as a reward for those who do good. Ilyas is considered a believing servant of Allah. The story of Prophet Luth. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 133 to 138. Allah appointed Luth as an apostle and saved him and his followers, except his wife, who was an infidel. Then Allah destroyed the others as punishment. Allah confirms that the people of Mecca will pass by the ruins of the people of Luth in the morning and evening, but they will still not understand the signs of Allah's power. The story of Prophet Yunus, mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 139 to 148. Allah appointed Yunus as an apostle who once ran to a ship full of cargo and was drawn so that he was swallowed by a large fish as punishment. However, because Yunus often glorified Allah, he was released from the belly of the fish to barren land in a sick state, where Allah grew a gourd plant for him. Yunus was then sent to 100,000 people or more who finally believed, and Allah gave them the pleasure of life until a certain time. The assumption of the disbelievers of Mecca that the angels are the daughters of Allah, mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 149 to 163. The disbelievers of Mecca stated a lie by saying that Allah had a daughter, when in fact they were truly liars. Allah asked if he preferred daughters to sons, showing their stupidity in determining this. Allah emphasizes that even the jinn know that those who say this will definitely be dragged to hell, but Allah's chosen servants will be spared from this error. Allah is declared holy from what is attributed to polytheists, and only Allah's servants who are chosen because of their sincerity will be saved, while those who worship other than Allah will not be able to mislead anyone against Allah except for those who will enter the hell of Jahannam. Characteristics of angels. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 164 to 170. Angels state that each angel has a certain position and is always arranged in a row and continues to glorify Allah. However, the disbelievers in Mecca said that if they had the holy book as revealed to the ancients, they would be the chosen servants of Allah, but in reality they denied the Koran. So one day they will know the consequences of their disobedience. Certainty of Islamic victory. It is mentioned in Surah Ash-Shaffat, verses 171 to 182. Allah's promise remains for his servants who become apostles, who will definitely receive help, and Allah's army will definitely win. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to turn away from them until a certain time, and when Allah's punishment falls, the morning will be very bad for those who were warned. They were asked whether they wanted Allah's punishment to be hastened, but they would see that punishment later. These verses emphasize the majesty of God, who is purified from what is considered by unbelievers, as well as giving peace to the apostles and praising Allah as the Lord of the worlds. Conclusion of Surah Ash-Shaffat. This surah emphasizes the oneness of God and concludes that monotheism will prevail by showing that those who oppose the messenger will be destroyed, including the polytheists of Mecca who rejected the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In the context of faith, this chapter provides postulates about the oneness of Allah, the existence of the day of resurrection, the desert of Mahsyar and the day of judgment, and states that angels always glorify Allah. The stories told include the prophets Nuh, Alaihi Salam, Ibrahim, Alaihi Salam, Ismail, Alaihi Salam, Musa, Alaihi Salam, and Harun, Alaihi Salam, Ilyas, Alaihi Salam, Luth, Alaihi Salam, and Yunus, Alaihi Salam. Apart from that, this chapter discusses the attitude of disbelievers towards the Quran, accusations between disbelievers and their followers on the Day of Judgment, enjoyment in heaven, and the zaqqum tree. This chapter also denounces those who claim that Allah has children and emphasizes that a good person does not necessarily produce good offspring.